to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv, where we're here to discuss the fantastic and wonderful FileMaker platform. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. I'm here with Calvin and Michael, who are both fantastic people. Calvin is one of our senior
Good afternoon.
engineers, and Michael is one of our coaches. You've seen them many, many times before, but when they're back, they're here to discuss slide panels and button bars today and a variety of things about both of them. So that should be really fun. Real quick, a reminder, we stream on 3 platforms. We stream on Discord, we stream on YouTube, and we stream on Twitch. I watch the conversations on all of these. Please talk to us. We like interacting with you guys. Part of the reason we do this is to improve and, build up the FileMaker community. So talk. We love hearing questions. We love helping people out. It's what we're here to do. Real quick, I'm going to do our future schedule of wonder and joy. So Monday is me slide panel and button bars, also known as today. Tomorrow's gonna be really fun, integrating Siri with FileMaker Pro, which is there's semantics in that title that got dropped a bit. We'll talk about that more, I'm sure, tomorrow. Wednesday's the what is a value. Thursday be what is a value, both with Nick Hunter. He is continuing his value in-depth deep dive series. Friday is file maintenance, compressed copies, recover command, and FileMaker with Jacob Taylor. And Monday's be multi-record selection in FileMaker for beginners. We got a lot coming up, covering different topics. Today's more of a beginner to intermediate day. Tomorrow's more of an intermediate to advanced day. I don't know, Calvin, how difficult is doing tomorrow's stuff, do you think, for most people?
Setting up Siri is really easy.
Oh, okay. So maybe more of a beginner thing even. Some fun beginner stuff you can do. Wednesday and Thursday are definitely advanced days with Nick. And then Friday's going to be kind of like an all-arounder. There's some basic, maintenance stuff. So we cover a lot of stuff. Please come back. We enjoy it. Also, if you feel like supporting the channel, we greatly appreciate. We do this for free, 5 days a week, an hour every day. So, but people still gotta get paid. Like Calvin still has to get paid. Michael still has to get paid. So we greatly appreciate you buying our learning subscriptions. It's not even like you don't just buy a subscription and you show up to live streams. You get 100+ hours of video content. I think it's way more than that now if you count all of. I think 100+ hours might just be the main course. But there are a ton of courses, and it covers pretty much every topic: WebDirect Go, server, cloud, FileMaker Pro basics, you name it, we talk about it. If you got questions that you're like, oh, these people aren't talking about the things I want to talk about, or if you want to support the channel, we would greatly appreciate you buying the bundle. I promise you get your money's worth out of it. It's great. Now that we have said hellos, we're getting started. Where do you want to start today, Calvin and Michael?
I think we're going to start with just the idea of what is a button bar versus what is a button. And we're going to look at a file on Mike's screen. So Mike, if you want to share your screen, we will take a look at just a blank FileMaker file and start messing around with that.
Yep, looks like we're good.
Okay, so let's go ahead and make a button and a button bar on here. And so the button is an older layout object, and the button bar is a much newer layout object. And initially they seem very similar. So I don't know if you caught the difference where he's selecting, but the button and the button bar are right next to each other. Mike, can you go ahead and select the arrow on the button and see what other options we have for selecting a button? So we have, in the toolbar. If we go to the toolbar and see the button.
I pull it
down
up
here. There. Yeah, right there. So we can select to create a button or a popover button. Let's create a popover button too, just so we have everything right there. So the button is the oldest of the layout objects, or of these that we're talking about at least. And we have the popover and then the button bar. And what's some advantages, would you say, Mike, to a button? What's some good things about a button here?
Just a standard button, or the advantages to the button bar?
I'd say the button. We were talking about the button first.
The advantage of the button, it's simple, it's easy, it's straightforward, very beginner level stuff. You can, with buttons, you can do a lot of different things. You can activate scripts, you can activate navigation. Very, very simple and standard stuff, but very powerful in its own right.
Yeah, and it's real fast to set up. You just pull it over and you can start to give it an action, assign it to a script. Button, the popover, same thing. Is you quickly add that to your layout. And with the button bar, there's a little more setup. So you'll notice that when he initially created the button bar, it had 3 buttons. A button bar defaults to 3 buttons, and you can add or remove them. Now you can have a single button bar as well, and some people that I've spoken with actually don't use buttons at all. They use only button bars for all of their layout objects where they want an interaction like that. And one of the neat things about the button bar, though, if you double click on that new button bar you did, and you have the option to give it where right below the title, it says that it's assigned as a button. But go ahead and click on that, and you can change it to a popover button. So just like that, now it's a popover, and it can be a single button with a popover or not. But go ahead and select the original the first popover that you did. And can we change this back into a button? And the answer
doesn't look like we can. No.
No, we can't. So one thing that is cool about the button bar is that it has this additional flexibility of being both a button or a popover, and you can switch it back and forth and use it in that way, which is it was pretty interesting how with that additional flexibility. Now, one thing you'll want to notice, though, if you do use the button as a single button bar button as just a regular button, is that once you click it once, it becomes active. In this case, it will only be active when the popover is open. But if you don't have it as a popover, it will be active as soon as you click on it. So you won't get the hovering, the hover afterward. So go ahead and create a new one. Let's see if we can demo this. Just duplicate the single button bar. Yeah, there we go. And then make it into a regular button.
Okay.
It is a regular button. Give it an action. You can't click on a button that doesn't have an action. So single step, and we'll just say beep or something, whatever you want. We'll say OK. And let's go into browse mode. And I'm not sure that this, go ahead and click on the single button bar too. So now it looks like it's selected, which it is selected, but but that wouldn't be the behavior for a regular button. So either we would want, usually if I do this technique, I'll have a special single button bar theme where the active state, the active style is the same as the regular style for the button, so it doesn't drastically change every time you click on it. But it's a good thing to point out there. And do you have any other thoughts, Michael, about some things about these button bars?
As far as the power that a button bar has, which I find to be pretty cool, is you can name it as calculations. To add, like, for instance, in starting point, we have calculations that show the numbers of invoices or the numbers of contacts, and you can do a similar situation on these, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show that off. So go ahead into layout mode.
Okay, and button 1.
Yeah, and then we will. Yeah, so go ahead and go into layout mode, and then you're specifying the active segment. Did you want to say that, or were you saying what the name of the button bar is?
Oh, I was specifically referring to the active segment.
Okay, let's go to naming it, because that's a little more practical.
Okay.
So you can name, or you can have the label displayed as a what is it called? as a calculation. So go ahead and put some kind of get function in here.
Get current date.
So here we have get current date. And when we go into browse mode, we will let's go ahead. We'll see that we have the current date. And you could have this say find records for and then have the current date there. And that way you can have this quick button that will point to the whatever records you want to select. And obviously you have a script that would perform that find for you. So here he's spelling that out. So get records for 3722, and clicking that might run a button that performs that find and gets that. But you can put any number of things there. Sometimes your button bar doesn't even have to have an action associated with it. Maybe it's just to show show some text, some data from your some data that you might want to display, like from a calculation. So maybe you want to just display the current date on the layout. You could have that as a calculation in the button bar, just to display a message to the user. So some really cool features there, and the feature he was talking about in FM starting point, it counts. In FM starting point, we use button bars, or we use a calculation in a tab control to count the number of related records. So you can get this summary of all the records related to a current, whatever record you're currently looking at. Do we have any questions at this point, or are we ready to keep going?
I think you're good to go.
Yeah, here's just a visual representation of what I was talking about in starting point. I'll make this a little bit smaller. Sorry, so we've got notes here. If I were to add another note, you can see now we have 3 notes. Cool stuff. All right, please continue, Calvin.
Yeah, so I guess at this point we can talk about using a button bar versus using a tab control. So can you bring back FM starting point? And
Sure.
One thing we'll notice here is that if you go into layout mode, just to look at those tabs, go ahead and select that tab object. You'll notice in the object tree on the left that this is a tab control and not a set of button bars. Now, one thing that I like about button bars is you have these hiding, you can apply a hiding feature to the entire button bar or to an individual button within the button bar. So let's go ahead and minimize this and go back over to our main, our first layout, and go into layout mode. And select the top button bar and select the hide object when on the right side. So here we have hide object when, and actually go ahead and select the whole thing and just put a 1 in there. So say okay. Now you'll notice that the I for showing whether there's a visibility calculation is in the top right corner. And when you see that on a button bar for the top right corner, it means that the entire button bar has a hiding condition associated with it. Now select one of these button bars within buttons within the button bar. Now you notice there's no hide object when calculation. Go ahead and put a 1 in there. And we'll see now there's a I at the lower right, and that would mean that that single button has a hide condition. Go to the button bar 2 and put a 0 in there. 0. Okay. So now let's go into browse mode. And we'll see that the entire button bar calculation is the one that is by default is the first one that evaluates. So let's go back into browse mode or layout mode and remove that main, that first hiding condition. And we go back to browse mode, we'll notice that it shows as one button. And what's really cool here is that it resizes. The button resizes even though that button bar is part of that button bar is hidden. Now let's go back to browse mode and add a third button on that. And we'll say button bar 3. And let's go back to browse mode. So we had 3 buttons, but one of them's hidden. And then we have button bar 2, button bar 3, button bar 1 is hidden, and everything just respaced, which is a lot nicer than having a gap in a row of buttons that you might have seen before we had the button bar. And this really makes things nice for hiding things from people that they don't necessarily need, we don't want them to see, or they don't need to see. For example, if we went to FM starting point and put hiding conditions on each of those navigation buttons and said, okay, some people, we don't want them to navigate to invoices, and obviously controlling that from security would be the first thing we would do. But then we don't want them to navigate to invoices accidentally and see a no access layout. So we could put a hiding condition on one button and immediately have it just hidden, and they wouldn't even there wouldn't be a blank space there. Everything would just be redistributed, and you would be able to see that it would look seamless. So that's really a powerful thing with these hiding conditions on the button bar, which is really cool. And you can do that for a main navigation or a sub navigation. Any thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, that's really great. It eliminates the thing that a lot of juniors do when they first start is they stack single buttons and single objects on top of each other, and it kind of helps with the building of the layout, because you don't have to go and hide button 1 and then unhide button 2 when you're trying to make edits to these buttons. Really powerful stuff.
Yeah. Any questions about that hiding and?
Not really a question, but there's kind of a comment from Ken. Ken says, I'm using this with the slide panel add-ons from RCC. I started removing the unused slides, but then just started hiding the unused one. It means I can easily add a new slide just by unhiding buttons.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to do it, because it kind of leaves this placeholder there, but it doesn't confuse people by having an empty space that we don't want them to look at. But yeah, that's great.
Yep. He also adds that the resizing was a really nice surprise. So.
Yeah, especially when you're when you're used to the old way FileMaker worked, where nothing resized and stretched the way you wanted it to. So this was a happy find to find that this was working the way we'd want it to.
Always nice.
Any comments, Mike?
No, I'm just excited that we're doing this. I've got a lot of buttons that are stacked on top of each other, and I'm thinking about all the ways that I can fix that with this button bar. It's really cool.
Why would you have buttons stacked on top of each other?
Well, sometimes I in my personal launcher I will do. Let's see, what's the thing that I have it for? It's I'm drawing a blank what it is now. It's kind of like a toggle on off type thing, and I think it was like an active clients button that when I click on it, it would. And this is something I built when I very first started working at RCC, that I just haven't managed to clean up in my launcher. But it was when they were on, you click a button, it would turn them on, and it would hide that button, and then the next button would be off, and it would just cycle through hiding based on a global variable that gets set in the on and off script. So obviously I over engineered that in the beginning as a beginner developer, and this would have been a much better way to manage my layouts.
Got it. Yeah. So one common use for these button bars is for we can use them in conjunction to slide panels to mimic a tab control. So if we look at FM starting point, we looked at that a second ago. This is not a button bar and slide control. This is a tab control. So go ahead and select one of the middle buttons and let's put a hiding feature on it. So did we lose FM starting point?
Oh, excuse me. I thought we were going back to the regular one.
No, let's look at FM starting point and just try to put a hiding feature on one of those middle tabs. So we don't want to see the second tab, the contacts. We're only using accounts. And go ahead and select the tab, put the hiding on it, just number 1. So we don't want it seen, and we'll go browse mode.
Ooh.
And everything disappears. So we can't select a single tab in a tab control, but we could select a single button in a button bar. So I'll switch to showing my screen. I've got a demo file that we've looked at before. This is actually a Nick Hunter file. And let's go ahead and show you this. It's called the UI Design Sample Red Downtown. And here we have something similar to FM starting point, but in this case, we are using a combination of a slide control here and a button bar. So these are two separate layout objects, but placed one above the other, it makes it feel like a tab and a tab control. It feels like it. Now, one of the benefits of this is that we can easily hide one of the options here. And so in this case, I was able to hide the second tab without having to hide everything, or without having to delete it, which is what we're trying to, like Ken was saying, he wanted to, he found that saving them for later when you might need them is better. So in this case, we can do that. And what might be some other options that make the slide tabs or slide control versus a tab control, a slide control with a button bar better than a tab control? Or what are just the differences? What are you thinking?
The difference is, I mean, you kind of said it pretty well. Just the being able to control more precisely what you're doing. Like Ken said, being able to hide slides that you don't want to use without deleting the whole thing. You know, maybe you might want to use that slide later. You don't want to delete the whole thing. So hiding the button is just a much that is just a better way to do things. So you don't have to redo all that work that you know, it probably took you a long time to get that slide ready. You don't want to delete that work that you did. So yeah, and again, the calculations, being able to add numbers and
yeah, you can do calculations in tabs. I'm not sure how long we've had that option, but that is an option. So one nice thing though that I think about here is that you'll notice there's this animation between tabs, which can really make it nice it makes it easier to have things. Some people like the animation, some people don't. But one thing that it does is it lessens the obviousness of pixel shift. So so we don't have to worry about that quite as much when we have this sliding back and forth. Also, you can slide with 2 fingers on your touchpad as well without having to click on the buttons themselves. And some people like that. We'll see. It's illustrated here. The gestures are available on iOS devices and on computers that have a touchpad. So that's another nice thing about it. Another thing is sometimes if you run out of space, you might need to have a vertical slide control. And there's no option for a tab control that is vertical. It has to be a horizontal tab control. But in this case, you'll notice the style is just a little bit different, but it's the same kind of principle. We've got a slide navigation bar and a tab control next to it. So that is what kind of brings these, we set them next to each other and you get this sense that you're navigating between the slide panels, which you are, but you get this vertical control versus a horizontal control, which gives us a lot more space and real estate for the button labels and the information themselves. So, do you have any comments or thoughts on that, Mike?
I mean, being able to do things vertically like this is very nice. You know, you look at things like iTunes and a lot of other softwares, and you've got a lot of left side navigation. It's kind of, you know, pretty standard, and being able to do that in FileMaker is pretty crucial. And you may not want to do it in a master detail portal. You might want to do it with buttons for some reason, and this is the way to do it.
Yeah, so definitely helpful. And I think in FM Starting Point, we have this in one of the in the preferences. I think we use a vertical navigation for showing the preference, different preference options.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
And I think that was pulled right from here. One thing you said about stacking buttons, one thing we had talked about just before this is using a button bar to and the hiding in conjunction to turn for showing something on and off. Now, we hadn't really talked about it to this point, but you can put in a button bar, you can put these icons, which are really cool. We can select different icons to put in these buttons along with the text, and that's not an option in the tab controls. And so in this case, I've got this button bar that has it's supposed to look like a slider to turn something on and off. And the way that this is working is with a button bar and two buttons, and they have a calculation. One is that a given field does not equal 1, and the other is that the given field does equal 1. And so that way it doesn't have to equal 0 or it be empty. It's the same calculation but in reverse. And so whichever one is true, it will in conjunction to a set field step that sets that button, then we can have this this nice slider effect that can be really nice for showing something is active and inactive. Maybe some preference options could be used for something like that as well. And using button bars in conjunction with these icons can be a really useful technique for communicating the data that you have in your app. So that is another aspect there.
That's really nice. So, go ahead, Margaret.
We do have some two questions real quick from Ken.
Okay.
Is there animation on tabs? There is on slides. And can you change the color with the hide state?
Can you change? So there is animation on slide panels. There's not animation on tabs. Tabs are a lot older than the animations is. What was the next question?
And then can you change the color with the hide state?
Yeah, so the hide state doesn't really change color, but you can do, but the hide state and conditional formatting are really similar, but not quite the same. I feel like eventually conditional formatting might be under behavior. I feel like it would make a lot of sense to have that under behavior. But to get to conditional formatting, you have to open up you right click and then select conditional formatting. You can put a calculation in here. I'm just going to put the number 1. And we can select the icon color as maybe purple. And maybe our text color is purple. And maybe it was the same purple. Say OK. Now when I go to browse mode, and so now it's showing up as purple based on whatever conditional formatting I have in there. And the conditional formatting is not the hiding, but often they're thought of as being similar or the same. Does that answer the question?
Ken, does that answer your question? He's typing. We do have another question while he types.
Okay.
How do I get color icons from Michael Kerwin on YouTube?
Color icons. So the icons in your app, you can, so the colors in the icons, if we go over here, you can put any icon in your as an option in here. So if I select to add one, actually, let me see if I have a copy of that from starting point on here. I'll just see if I have this. Okay. This is a copy that I've been used for a bunch of live streams, but let's go ahead and look at one of these buttons. And you'll notice that we have a bunch of icons in here that have colors. So you can actually put in any JPEG or PNG in here just by selecting this plus button and selecting it. I don't have any icons on my computer at the moment to show you that, but but you'll notice as soon as I select one of these, it shows up in the layout and you can see those colors. So that is an option for putting in having a colored icon if you wanted something a little more with a little more color and texture than, say, one of these blank ones. The thing about using something like this, though, if we go into browse mode, we can't change the color of it. So here, if I go to the formatting and select, I want to change the icon color, it actually doesn't give me any options to change the icon color because this particular icon cannot be changed. So if I go back to those icons and select one of these icons that can be changed, then you'll see that now I have the icon options. So usually I work to get the icons to be flexible so that we can change the color to anything, then use an icon that doesn't change. Does that answer the question?
Michael will probably get back to us in like about a minute and a half. It's about how much delay there is between YouTube and
okay.
Twitch.
Yeah.
Ruben does have another up. Ken says his question is answered. Ruben has a question. Kind of a question.
Mm-hmm.
You can use JPEGs as icons? Wow. I always struggle to find an SVG or make one myself.
Yeah, so when the first time we used this, we had the default icons, but if we look at an old copy of FM Starting Point, instead of using these icon options, we actually had container fields that held all the icons. And so when we created the first FM Starting Point that had these new icon options, we just took the JPEGs from the old copy or the PNGs and imported them as different objects. And that's why FM Starting Point has all of these old icons in there. These are from container fields back in the day.
Another thing to add there is that if you're using a format that's not SVG, you run into the same problem that you were talking about earlier, where you can't change the color. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct. So the SVG is preferred so that you can change the colors and with the FileMaker formatting, and at the moment, I believe the design style is more leaning toward these kind of icons than these ones that look like they're from 2006.
Well, that's just the nature of icons. David Angel, how to make a button bar to look bigger when hovering?
A button bar may look bigger when hovering.
Yes.
So so you can. Well, FM Starting Point doesn't do a lot with hovering, but let's go ahead and do that. So when you select a button bar, you have the option to format the button bar, the divider, the segment, or the icon. You probably want the segment. And let's just say, and right now we're looking at inactive, let's say hover. And what I'm going to do is change the line to maybe from 6 to 10. And so now when I hover over it, it just moves slightly. You see that? So it kind of jumps out. And I'm not saying that that's a good design choice there, but that's one thing you can do. So, but you all of these, you can make all these changes specific to when you're hovering. So let's change the size to 20. This is just going to start looking more and more ridiculous. So now it's getting bigger. The font size got bigger, and I think I turned off the jumping. Let's do something else. Again, when you're making these changes to the formatting, you want to make sure that you're selecting the correct state, because every time you go into browse mode, then it goes back to the default. So now let's say we want it to be bold, and I was thinking maybe we could select uppercase, but maybe not. So now it's getting, it looks big and bold when you hover over it. Let's see what else. And I'm not a designer, but I'm going to say it's probably not the way you would want to make it look. I'm just showing you how. Okay, hover again. And let's make this, okay, the line is, so it is jumping up a little bit. And then here we've got a style. We can say uppercase. So now we're going to go bold, increase the font size, bold, all uppercase. It's really shouting at you now. Richard's probably going to get upset with me for showing people how to do something that's so loud. Okay. Does that answer the question? Is that what you're looking for? How to make something look bigger when you hover over it? You can even change the color. Let's make it purple or something. Okay, so I'm selecting hover. And now I'm going to make the text color something real. Now Richard's really going to kill me. Now it's purple when we hover over it. So it's exploding in our faces now. Does that answer the question? Is there any other questions about those button bars?
Brotherman said, thanks, got it. Ken would like you to redo it real fast. So if you want to do the high speed redo version real quick.
Like undo?
He wants you to see you do it again. So
I'm just going to
just the caps. He wants you to see you do the caps again because he missed that part.
Oh, the caps, I see. So I'm selecting the button bar. I'm selecting the format. You have to select which one you want. You want the hover. And now down here, we've got a few styles under text. We can select the font, the style as far as regular italics, bold or bold italic. And then down here, we've got the styles option. So, and I think we can actually select a few of these. So now I'm saying uppercase and condensed and strike through. You'll notice that there's a few different breaks in the list, and within each break you can select one of the options. I'm not gonna make a subscript. I'm not gonna do that. So lots of different. By default, it's plain. If you select plain, it removes everything else. And for the most part, the only one I do here is uppercase. I'll use that one. Lowercase. But and this is not just, this is also an option within fields as well. So that's not just a button thing. And so sometimes if you want to show maybe an email as always lowercase, you can select the style and say lowercase. And this is a display style. It's not actually changing the data. It's just showing you it's just how it's displayed on the screen. If we actually want to change the data, there's we can use auto enter calculations to change what the data is to make it lowercase or uppercase. But good questions there. Anything else?
No, I think we're good. So you are free to move forward.
Okay. So the I guess the other thing I had here was I was going to look at the add-on over here, and I want to go to, so Christian made this a slide, what he called slide tabs, and it's this add-on that allows us to quickly add tabs to an app. And then I've gone through and changed the formatting on it a few times, but you can find this in the Wolfpack. And I believe this one, I'll have to has a, yeah, so this one has this custom function. So where we can put in a number, the label as singular, the label as plural, and then whatever we want in find mode. So this was the latest change that we made to this. Let's go ahead and go to manage custom functions. And what this function is on the label, it's really just that the calculation that we have in let's go back over here. It's the same calculation that we have in Red Downtown and in FM Starting Point, where we format those tabs and those numbers. But you'll notice here, if I want to change the color here, I would have to go through this gray. I'd have to go through, or even the size. I'd have to go through each button and change it, and make that change right there. But if you do it through a custom function, then we can change it in one place and it'll change everywhere. So here, in this case, we go manage custom functions and go to the label, and we can change it to whatever number we want. Let's go ahead and copy this label. So ST label, so ST is slide tabs. I'm going to paste it over here. Manage custom functions. Just paste that in. Say OK. And we'll show you real quick how you would change this if you wanted to in your app. So I'm going to switch this back to just the text. And now I'm going to say ST for slide tabs underscore. There's our label. Now our number, we're going to get that same calculation that we had here, which is the count. And what's the singular? We'll just copy this because that's singular and plural. So singular and plural right here. And then find mode, looks like find mode, we just wanted slides. And now we just need to comment out the old stuff. Okay.
You're missing one colon in between the parenthesis and row.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, let's go ahead to browse mode. And so we have 0 rows, and we'll see how that works just like we would expect it to work. Now, if we just go through and let's go ahead and change this on all of these. So what was it? ST underscore. And then we're just going to copy our count. Say main row and main rows. Paste there. And then, oops, copy. Our slides in there. And then again, comment out the rest. So now we've got 2 of them done. We'll leave it at 2 just so we can see that changing it one place changes it in multiple places. So these 2 still have the old calculation. These 2 have the custom function. Now if we go to manage custom functions, and now I say I want to change the color or change the size, let's make it something smaller just so we can see the change. We'll do 8. So now we just changed it in one spot. And now immediately we get both of those changed. You see that? While if we wanted to change it before, we would have to go through and change each tab. And I don't think there's too much. I guess if you wanted one to remain a different size, you could have, if you wanted them to display as different sizes, you could do that. But usually, I think most people would want to be able to change. If they're changing it one place, they want to change it everywhere. And that would be one of the powers of using a custom function in one of these tab control button bars to change that. So let's go back to make this a 13 again. Go back to size 13 because it looks better. Any thoughts there, Mike?
Really powerful stuff. I'm loving what you're showing right here. You're making everyone's life a whole lot easier. My only thought right now is, we've got a couple minutes left. Would it be beneficial to show just a very, very basic button bar that controls a slide with a go-to object?
Oh, okay. So I guess
very entry-level stuff.
Yeah. So I guess if we want to look at what this button bar is, what these buttons are doing, they're just calling a go-to object, and you'll see it's based on the script parameter. And so we are saying go to slide 2, and then it's saying go to object, and based on the object name, that's slide 2. So it's jumping over here. So it's it's very simple. If you look at the calculation for which one, with the active segment, we're getting into some script triggers and stuff, but and we can go farther into that if we wanted to. But really, where it starts is having the go-to object and navigating to that object. So real simple script. If we look at this, all this script is, and this is a modular script, so we're using it everywhere. Set layout object animation on, so that's so we see it move, and then go to object, and then it's just pulling that object name from the script parameter. If you look at slide tab, the add-on, it's just a little bit different. In the add-on, we are using, I believe the script parameter is a custom function, yeah. And it's telling where to go based on so here, if we look at this, it's telling you go to, the script parameter is saying, which one are we looking at? Let's look at this one. So it's going to, we're on the first group of slides, and we're going on to slide 4. And if we go down here, we'll see it's saying number 1, but then sub slide number 3. So it's set up a little bit differently, but essentially it's just that go to object script. And in this case, we're also keeping track of where we're going. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Don't see any. So I think we're good on that front. Oh, wait, no, of course. What is the source of all the ST labels CF? Wolfpack?
ST labels CF. Oh, custom function. Yeah. So if you go to Wolfpack and grab the downtown slide tabs, that is where it is. So ST label. I think that you specifically have to get the one that is the downtown slide tabs, because that is the one where I wrote it. And I don't think we went back and added it to the neomorphism one. We could check real quick. But I'm willing to bet money it's not in here. Say automatically open, save to desktop, file, manage, custom functions. And yeah, it's not in here. And actually, this one displays it a little differently. And this is one of those instances where having the custom function is helpful, because in this case, our custom function would be a little different because we're not displaying the data quite the same. If you remember the neomorphism design style that Nick used, he put a label and then in parentheses he put a number, and so we don't really need it doesn't read quite the same. If you saw 4 rows or 1 row, that would make more sense. But if you said row, you could in this new style, if you did rows parentheses 1, that wouldn't seem abnormal. So you'll want to go to Wolfpack and then the downtown 2-tier slide. That's the one. Yeah, it was great discussing the slide tabs, slide panels, and the button bars with everyone today, and glad that Mike and I got to work together on this one. Lots of fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This has been fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. Very excited to see you again tomorrow, Calvin. So
yes.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!